Kenya is off illegal ivory trade list, as experts expressed doubt on process. And the brief is that that list that is called, just trying to get that correct, global notoriety, or rather Kenya has been delisted from the gang of 8 countries of global notoriety in poaching and illegal trade in ivory, even as some parties complained that the process through which it was being let off the hook had become a mere box-ticking exercise. So the essence of this is that Kenya is not one of those countries that have been marked as areas where there's a lot of mass killing of elephants and poaching for the ivory and the value of ivory. I just don't know whether do you feel that over the years we have made sufficient progress to the extent that now we are conserving our animals in a better way, that we are now not as such a great threat that poaching brings?
We have made great strides, but in the making of the great strides in preserving the elephants, we've also had another setback where we have a lot more human-wildlife conflict. So you find, yes, the population of elephants has grown, but the people who live near the parks, who live near Savo, who live near, they tell you, by the way, now we can't even plant this, we can't plant that, because it actually attracts the elephants to come out. So that's a place where we need to grow and have a more sustainable, because you've seen countries, for example, like Zimbabwe, who get to a place and like, look, what we will do every once in a while, we are going to cull some of these elephants, use the proceeds from the legally obtained ivory to generate funds for more sustainable conservation. Maybe now that's where we need to go, because there's a time where we had to have a zero policy on ivory trade, completely zero ivory trade, because that's where we were, because the endangerment was so grave. But now that we've gotten to a place where there's some form of equilibrium, maybe now we have to find ways of minimizing the impact, the human-wildlife conflict, so that the ones who are around the parks don't go back to the days of killing the elephants. Now it's because they're protecting their families, and that is actually, it ends up being counterproductive at the end of the day. There's also a lot more thought process that needs to go into the KWS Act, so that the habitation for the elephants is also preserved. You've seen a lot of conflict and protests when they're building roads and railways, because they're saying, look, we are whittling the space where these great giants are supposed to live, and we want their population to grow. So there's a lot more process that has to go into all this conservation.
So there's a quotation here of Margaret Kinnaird. She says that facilitating the exit of countries that are implicated to this extent runs counter to the objective of the entire process and sets us several steps back in the fight to protect elephants. So she feels that even though Kenya has made those strides, they are not sufficient to now delist it from that list of countries that where poaching is pretty high in these countries.